When I've thought about doing this TED Talk, I thought about boundaries, and I'm thinking, really, boundaries? Who doesn't talk about boundaries? It's the buzzword now, right? Boundaries, boundaries, boundaries. But then I started to think on how personally I have put up boundaries, actually put up walls, and there's a big difference between the walls that I put up that isolated me, that kept me from my friends, that kept me from my family, to breaking through those walls and creating boundaries, healthy boundaries, so that I can help people, so that I could be the person I was meant to be. I'm the oldest of 8, and I grew up in a beautiful town up in Larchmont, New York. And I want to talk to you about the really beginning, when there were only 4 of us. I was 6 years old. I had my sister Beth, who was 5 years old, Irish, who was 4 years old, and Tommy, who was 2 years old. Now, some of you may not think that Irish is a proper name, but my father, in his infinite wisdom, named all the girls after the Virgin Mary and a saint, just in case we wanted to become nuns. And I am here to tell you, none of us did. So it was Terri, Beth, Irish, and Tommy. When Tommy was 2 years old, he was diagnosed with leukemia. He had 6 months to live, he was told, or my parents were told that. What happened next, my father went into his office the very next day after getting that devastating news and told his business partner that Tommy had 6 months to live. Peter Kane was his business partner. Peter Kane was about 67 years old. And he said to my dad, "I wish God would take me instead of Tommy." The next day, Peter Kane died. I still get goosebumps when I think of that. Tommy ended up living until May 26th of 1971, 2.5 years. And in that time, Terri, Beth, and Irish, and Tommy still played games, still went on vacations. Tommy started losing his hair, so we pull it out and then we play for the older people, the little rascals. And when his head was bald, we would go, "Wish I had a watermelon, wish I had a watermelon," on his head. And he thought that was the greatest thing ever. My parents made it as normal as possible for us. But Tommy soon got a lot sicker. He became blind and crippled in the last 6 months of his life. I am at this point 10 years old. We are going up and down the stairs, bringing lunch to Tommy, and he's in a hospital bed in one of our bedrooms. What we still did with him is we played with him. You know, when I think about it, it was not a normal life, but for me, that's what was normal. So my mom would come up with the tray for our lunch, and we had a long hallway, and we would put Tommy in his little wheelchair. They're really cute for little kids. And put him in his little wheelchair, and we would roll him down the entire hallway to try to hit my mother with the food. My mother could hear us because we were laughing so much. We had to end that once when Tommy went wheeling by her and landed on the floor in the other room. But my parents let us do things like that. Tommy also used to cheat at checkers. My Uncle Jack brought checkers for the blind, and he would be playing with Tommy in the hospital bed, and we would sit there and watch as Tommy cheated and put the things in the bed. And then Uncle Jack would pretend to not see it, and then we would take them out. When I think back at that, when I think back at May 26th of 1971, when we came home from the Mayfair at our school with presents for Tommy, to be told he wasn't there, that he had gone to heaven. It was very surreal. The one thing that I love that my parents did for us, we all knew Tommy went to heaven and that he was really happy there. My mother was very stoic. She was strong. She was strong for us. By that time, there were 2 more kids. So now we have 6. But Tommy had passed, so now there were 5. My father couldn't get over it. It was his only son, his namesake. And I watched as a little girl, my father, his heart break. And he couldn't get back. And my mother did have another son, Sean James. He's the prince in the family. And that was in 1973. The bicentennial, it's coming up on 50 years for the whatever they call it now. But back then, on July 4th, the bicentennial, we were supposed to go to the tall ships because we lived right outside of New York. And my dad was getting ready to go to church. And the next thing you know, my sisters rather, I was not at home, my sisters and my mother heard him scream. And right then and there, he dropped dead of a heart attack. I was 14 years old. I was mad. I was angry. I did not know how to handle it. I did not think of anyone else. What I did do was I put up those walls. I isolated myself. It wasn't pretty. Now, I would love to tell you that I was the type of daughter that really embraced my family and helped my mom with the kids. That's not my story. I left. Mentally, emotionally, I left. My mother was 38. She had 6 kids. She had not worked. And she was pregnant with my baby sister. What a mess. I will tell you that I was very, very, very fortunate, and I still am, to have some of the best friends in my entire life, from grown up through college. They're still very close to me. Because I put up those walls, and they allowed me to put up those walls. But when it came time, when they saw the destructiveness of me and my destruction, came in drinking. I'm a blackout drinker. At the age of 15, I was blacking out. It didn't get really bad until after college, because who doesn't go to college and drink? The drinking age was 18 then, so I don't know if that makes it any better, but it was just one party after the other. But I was hurting inside. My identity, I identified with my tragedies. Everyone knew, oh my God, poor Terri. Her brother died, her father died, her mother has all these kids. I rode that so hard, and I was so mad, and I didn't ask for help. Help was offered to me. I'll make it clear, probably not as much as it would be today, but help was offered to me. People would ask me, are you okay? With the people that I had a job in college because I was on work study, and they would ask me. Well, first of all, they tell me you have to show up on time. You shouldn't smell like creme de menthe. It's like, what? Or peppermint schnapps. One of my teachers told me peppermint schnapps is not a mouthwash. Huh? What? But it continued on, and people enabled me, I would say. But I never lost sight of those friends. After college, I went to this wonderful place called Block Island, Rhode Island. It's an island 15 miles off the coast of Newport. I found my people there that drank like me, that partied like me, that accepted all that behavior. The boundaries, I had no boundaries. If I didn't go to work, it was okay. Someone would cover for me. What changed was one of my friends finally put up a boundary that I could not, that broke my heart. Margot was my oldest and closest friend. She was getting married. Didn't ask me to be in her wedding. What a blow. And you know what I did? I said, I'm going to go there, I'm not going to drink, and she'll see. Well, if anyone knows what happens with a true alcoholic, that I am, I drank. And I had to go up to Margot and say, I have to leave very early in the night because I don't feel well. And she looked at me and she had these beautiful green eyes. She said, you are my oldest, dearest friend in the world. And you can't be here for me tonight. And I couldn't. What I did do is I went to the local tavern and went into that blackout. The next morning, my fiance at the time looked at me and said, I think you have a drinking problem. I heard it that time. The walls came down. I was raw. I needed help. My friends surrounded me and helped me. I found new friends. I found friends that didn't drink, and it was amazing. They're the same people that used to drink in the bars, they're just not using alcohol anymore. And what I did learn is I learned how to put boundaries, healthy boundaries, put them up. I want you young adults to know that you're amazing. Because I did not listen to that when people told me, and people did tell me as I was growing up, but I didn't listen, I didn't believe it. The walls were up, but I want you to know that you're amazing. Ask for help. Be the person you know you can be. Hold on to your friends, because it's been 37 years since I've had a drink, and I have now become a sober, dignified woman. And if nothing else, learn from my life, because I did not. I went down the road of hard knocks, but this is what I had to do, the lessons that I had to learn to stand on the stage tonight, which is pretty amazing to be standing here, first of all, talking about recovery, talking about not hiding my feelings in a drink, telling you that life is messy, but it's awesome. And you're our future. And I am so excited that you're our future, because I've seen a lot of you rise up from hardships. I'll leave you with this. One of my mentors, Joe Ball, gave me this little card, and it said, like me, everyone wants to be happy. Like me, everyone's learning in life. Like me, everyone has known sadness, despair, and hopelessness. Reach out to someone. Ask for help. Set your boundaries, healthy, sometimes not popular, but in the end, it will prove to be the most wonderful ride you've had. Thank you.